really, I look at this as an opportunity, at least with the platform given to just tell Buff Nation, fan base, alums that are coming home for homecoming, we really appreciated the support, the energy, the enthusiasm that was created 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And we look forward to, doing everything in our power to recreate what I got to experience firsthand with Folsom Magic. That's a real thing. I felt it. It was unlike any other fan base that I've personally been a part of, particularly in a time of adversity. So, students, alumni, Boulder natives, Colorado natives, people that are within 2 hours. I think Saturday night, 5 o'clock is going to be a fantastic football game. We're excited about it. We're prepping to put out the best product that we possibly can, and we're gonna go and compete and bring unbelievable energy and bring the execution to match that energy to create another great memory. That's the intent for this Saturday, and playing for a lot. These are opportunities that we know some of our 5th and 6th year seniors aren't going to have many going forward. So this is one of those Saturdays where we need all of you, Buff Nation. Everybody's got to show up and fill up Folsom Field. So looking forward to that opportunity, and I'll open up for questions.
Obviously, Arizona State went through a coaching change as well. Have they made drastic changes since they went to an interim head coach?
No, but I'm anxious to see what happens this week. There were some comments made, in a press conference with regards to their offense and their offensive play calling. And, obviously they came from a spot where the interim head coach was a running back coach, so he wasn't a coordinator. Probably wasn't overly intimately involved in the overall game planning, implementation of the game planning, and certainly the calling of the game. I'm anxious to see what that looks like. Sounds like the head football coach is going to be a lot more involved in the play calling decisions, in the game planning decisions. So I think coming off their game against Stanford, I would anticipate this week that there's going to be some changes, and we'll be ready for them. They don't have a bye week to implement changes, which oftentimes obviously is very helpful, as we saw. But I think defensively, you're seeing almost the same consistency that you've seen all year with regards to what they do schematically on defense. I don't see that really changing. But I've heard must-win game from their camp. This is a game we're going to go win. Things along those natures. So you got to expect tricks and bunt kicks and onside and reverses on kickoff return, like those types of things. When a team is putting those kinds of statements out, we anticipate everything. We're preparing for everything.
Hey, Coach, more of a big picture type question. What's the blueprint look like to develop this program into a consistent winner? What do you need?
I think we have to continue to develop, I'd say those first, second, and third year players. As we know, the critical importance of those players that are getting real reps. I thought Oregon State was a great model. If you look at Oregon State, you look at the 3-9 season, a couple sub 500 years. A lot of those players that were playing against us on Saturday were guys that had gone through those tough years. But what they did is that they had the continuity, how they were developed, the strength coach, the position coaches, all the way down to where you see them grow up and become a veteran team that looked like a true, Power 5 upper echelon of a conference type of a team. So I think it's that development. And the way you do it now in 2022 is, we have to, like I've been saying from the beginning, we have to invest in those relationships with those players, because a lot of these players didn't come to Boulder from the state of Colorado. So, you got to think about what's keeping them here at Colorado if they're putting good tape out there. It's got to be that we as a football program, we as an athletic department, we as a fan base are wrapping our arms around those players. And I think that, even the NIL space is going to be a part of that going forward, just to make sure that those players know that these guys are the players of the future. And, we've developed that offensively. There's growing pains with that, similar to that of which Oregon State had in their kind of, their leaner years. You're playing with young players. You're playing with, guys that are going to see really good football in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. But they stayed with those players, and those players stayed with that program. Therefore, you see the fruits of their labor. And I think that's the blueprint is developing it, from a freshman sophomore class currently. Love up these seniors, and empower them to take leadership roles, and then fill in all those gaps by being aggressive in the portal, which is something that we're going to absolutely do, and we're already in the process of doing.
Hey, Coach, the drops were a bit of an issue on Saturday, and they've kind of been an issue all year. Are there plans to see, in particular, Jack Castera more involved, or any other younger guys involved in the offense?
Absolutely, Jake. Yeah. First off, we as coaches are never going to point a finger at a player for dropping a pass. I look at it as it's my responsibility, Coach Patterson's responsibility, Coach McGagan's responsibility, Coach Hagan's responsibility to build up confidence throughout the course of the week, and then empower those players to play free and loose. Obviously, this is a bottom line industry, as we all know, and catching the football, particularly early in games when the game's still in the bounce, is critical. It allows you to stay on the field. You have rhythm. I looked at that game and I saw really 4 possessions where there was either 3 turnovers, that 3 giveaways on offense that happened on the plus side of the field. That's a 21-point possible swing. And then you look at another one, which is right before half, which could have made it a ball game, 21-10, a little bit different scenario, or going in when we had a 3rd and 10 and a 4th and 10, and we got to execute those plays. So first off, it's our responsibility as coaches to build up their confidence, to make them know that we believe in them, and then secondly, it's also personnel. I think Jack Castera, to your point, he's continued to trend in a really positive direction. R.J. Sneed, I think he's trending and getting healthier every week. His play speed was the highest it's been all year, and that was really good to see. Jordan Tyson working through some of those as a young player, seeing more opportunities for him, because I think he is one of our more ball in hand, dangerous players. So.
Hey, Mike, do you expect Owen to be ready to go this week? And if so, what kind of boost can he bring to the offense, especially after a week with multiple turnovers and kind of not getting in rhythm offensively?
Yeah, I think Owen got, I'd say, very limited reps again today. So being fully candid, and I want to be transparent with that. It's a throwing based injury. But that's in the kind of the midsection, so it's not a shoulder, it's not an elbow, it's nothing along those lines. But as a rotational athlete, which all quarterbacks are, same as a golfer, same as a pitcher. You guys have seen that as baseball people, right? You're Phillies. There've been obviously pitchers that you're counting on to go help you win a game that have some type of non-throwing arm related issue, but as a rotational athlete, it really starts, ground up, and it goes through, your core, and, obviously into your upper body. And so he's not there yet. So to be honest, today he is not there yet. Certainly we can update that as the week goes on.
Hi, Coach. More just scouting Arizona. What consistencies are you seeing within the team, and what are some of their vulnerabilities?
I think, you got to look first and foremost that they have speed. They have a running back that I think is a game-changing type player, very similar to Jay Knott, where you give him a crease and he's gonna take it. So we have to do a great job, like we did in the Cal game, of eliminating space. They have a D tackle in number 4 that is he when he gets going, he's a force to be reckoned with. Both as a kind of an interior pass rusher, a disruptor in the run game. I think they have an athletic secondary. In terms of what we're looking to exploit, I'm not going to obviously say that right now, but there are things that we feel like, both schematically and personnel-wise, on both sides of the ball, that we think we have the opportunity to find some holes in what they do on both sides of the ball, and we got to make sure that we execute in those scenarios. I think their quarterback situation is a really interesting one. I think both our programs are in a position where we've had some instability at the quarterback position, if you will. And, I know Emory Jones. I recruited him. I think he's a fantastic football player. When I was at Notre Dame, I went and watched him play down in Georgia high school. I went to his practice. I think he's a more than capable football player. The Bourgeau kid, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Might be a little off there, but, I think he's really what the head coach, I think, wants to play, reading between the lines of his press conference. And Yeah, either way, we're prepared for whichever quarterback plays. I think Emery's a pretty good, well-rounded player with experience. In a full season of SEC play. I think he's a really good player. Bourgeau, I think, is a guy that that their head coach believes gives them a spark. I think he's a good passer. He's played well in fits and starts throughout the course of the year, but we'll see which quarterback plays.
Mike, what's the toughest part about being an interim coach as opposed to head coach when you're the full-time head coach?
Honestly, Brian, there is no difference in the sense of my day-to-day because of the fact that I've done it. I've learned from it. I think sometimes just as a head coach in general, interim or not, you have to oversee, all 180 humans that are involved in your organization and the support staff, the staff. And, I'd say my first 3 weeks were all about just moving everybody in a direction together and unifying everybody in every corner of the building. The challenge of that is when it happens so quickly, those types of conversations and discussions, are really done in putting your staff together. Those are also done when you kind of set the clear expectations of how we're going to do business. Those had to happen instead of in 7 months leading up to a season, it had to happen in 2 weeks, or 10 days, in the case of the opening game after the bye week. But with regards to, being a head coach, like, I just look at it as it's just a great opportunity to just lead people positively. And that's what we need right now. So we need positive leadership, but every situation needs different. I think it requires a different response from the head coach to push the program forward in a positive direction. But I think right now it's just pointing out the things we're doing well, correcting the stuff we do on Sunday, and then once Sunday's over, we move it completely on with the lessons learned and accumulated through the previous game, good, bad, or indifferent. So I think it's not the staff you assembled, but connecting with each one of those people individually, and then making sure that if you see something that is not in line with moving everybody positively in a same direction going forward, then those are the things that sometimes occupy your time and take you away from the offensive and defensive stuff that you might have more time to do.
You mentioned that Josh Chandler's having to wear a walking boot. We saw him show fight late in the game out at Oregon State. Is he having to play through some pain this season?
No, he's just a vet. I think it was part of the culture at West Virginia. Everybody put on I just think everybody who played a lot of snaps in the game put on a walking boot. If they had any kind of foot or ankle or just any nagging injury whatsoever. It was the same thing in Notre Dame when I was there. I was like, I'd get to, Monday we'd show up to work and we'd have our players around. I'm like, half our team's going to be out this week. Yeah, I'd never seen that before, but I think it's preventative measures. And he looked awesome today. So he's not missing any practice, hasn't missed any practice reps. And he's been such a great addition. And I think that shows the benefit of what we can do if we go out and get the right players in the portal. We can go find guys like Josh Chandler. And to me, that's the model going forward. Albeit a grad transfer, I think there's second, third, and fourth year players that we also can be aggressive with going forward to make sure that the roster is in the best possible place by retaining the young players that have put good film on together, and then making sure that you add the right spots. Like I think Josh Chandler is a great example of that.
Just some quick updates on Deion Smith and Alex Fontenot.
Both practiced. So I should say Deion was full practice today and finished up his kind of last step towards full contact, but he practiced in a non-contact capacity. Looked awesome. He was. It's almost like he looked faster. He looked more decisive. He was hungry to be out there, and just all the credit in the world to Deion. To come back from a scary moment like that and just be that excited to come back to play with his teammates. I love Deion. I love who he is. This team loves him. Having him out there today it just made my day a little bit better. Fontenot's finishing up his running progression, which is more of a conditioning step rather than a physical limitation step. Tomorrow he should be up and cleared to practice.
Quick, Jayle Stacks, how much fun was it to see him finally, have that opportunity to, play through the offense, right? And
Yep.
only 8 carries, but I mean they were some productive carries.
Yeah, I mean, what, 50 yards?
Yeah, 50 yards on 8 carries.
Yeah, and you look at just his run after contact. You know, he adds a different dimension. He adds a different element. I really believe that Jayle is one of those players. When he chooses, like it's kind of like this whole concept of what our culture has become. You know, it's like you wake up every morning, you have a decision. Are you going to choose, you know, to love the game of football? Are you going to choose to love the process of football? That's resonated with Jayle, because when he makes that decision, we all saw what he's capable of doing. And he didn't just make that decision on Saturday of the Oregon State game. He made that decision in the bye week that he was going to pour himself completely into this, regardless of what his playing time looked like, his carries looked like. And I knew that he was on his way towards a special Saturday and many more special Saturdays, when he was extremely happy in the locker room, even with just 2 carries after Cal. And that to me showed me which kind of the trajectory of Jayle, and it helps us offensively because his body type gives a different presentation to linebackers that are fitting the run gaps at the second level. So success story that we're going to continue to see the fruits of his labor.
And then the other guy Thomas, continues to make some impact plays for you almost every week.
Yep.
How valuable has he been on the edge for you guys?
I think he's having a blast. I love seeing Guy at practice. I love seeing him, you know, after practice. I always dap him up, and he gives me a big hug and says, "How are you doing today, Coach?" He's a others centered type of a human. Like I love his care for the game. I think he, for whatever reason, the last 3 weeks I've seen a different switch just turn on with Guy, and I think we're just scratching the surface too. I think he's just an incredibly talented and gifted player, and his headspace being in a place where he's just loving going out and competing every day. I think we're just starting to see the beginning of what he can do to impact a football game.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
You two can decide who goes first.
Thanks, Brian. What's that?
Hey, Jayle, what was it like getting some of those long runs in at Oregon State? And I'm also kind of curious, it seems like everybody in that running backs room has been injured or banged up this season. Has it been kind of hard to get continuity going in that group?
I mean, with your first question, I think just looking at it, I think playing in the game, you know, for the first time like I did, it's kind of like practice, but you just look, those dudes on the other side are trying to, you know, bang you up, get you out of the game. But it was a great opportunity, and I was just trying to go out there and do what I could for my team. And then I think if you look at our running back room and the depth that we have, and, you know, some guy gets banged up, I think there's always someone that's going to step up and do what he needs to do, whether that's Dion, Fondo, Hankerson, Charlie Offerdahl, you know, there's always the next guy up, as they say.
We were on the other end of the field. We were sitting. It looked like you got in the first time, but you finally got in that second time. What was it like for you getting in the end zone and, you know, scoring your first touchdown as a Buff?
It was a great moment. I mean, thinking about it, I mean, I wish it was in better circumstances of, you know, us winning, but, you know, it's good to get your first touchdown.
For you, how tough has it been to kind of, you know, bide your time? And, you know, you were that featured back at Cherry Creek, and, you know, you've now had a couple of years where you've had to kind of wait your turn for getting some carries. What's that been like for you?
I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to trust the process and then understand that what you're doing will one day, you know, they'll see what you can show on the field, and that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years is that I know the backs that are in front of me, Dion and Fondo, are great backs, and they can get it done. So you just have to go and practice every day with the mindset of you get better every day, and then one day maybe someone will get hurt, unfortunately. But, you know, you got to be ready and step up to that plate.
Just your progression throughout the season, you had a great game against Oregon State. Overall, how do you feel like you've personally grown this season?
Just a better mindset. I mean, just thinking, I think since I've been here, I didn't have the mindset to grow every day. And since, I mean, the beginning of this season, I was just trying to be the best that I could be every day. No matter what happened, that last play, just be better than the next play. And, you know, keep going because it's going to give you the opportunity that you need.
I guess having seen this team growing up and being from, around Colorado, what's it going to take to get this team back to where it was?
That's a question right there. I think every day, I think it's going to take some time, but I think you just have to. You gotta love the game. And I think the dudes on this team love the game. I think we just need to execute what coaches are saying to us, and then because we got great players on our team, and if we just execute what coaches are saying, we could be a good team.
Obviously, you get the nice win against Cal last week. Looks like the first 5 weeks a little bit, but because you guys got that win against Cal, is there still that feeling in the locker room that, hey, we know we can do it, and just get back to kind of what you did the week before?
Oh yeah, I mean, looking at Cal, you know, it showed what kind of offense and what kind of defense that we have, what we can do. I mean, and then we get to the Oregon State game. No one was on that sideline with their heads down or upset about it. We know that we are a great team and we can move to the next week and be better and do what we need to do.
You guys struggled on third down against Oregon State, going 2 for 11. How important is it for you guys as a running back room to make sure you guys are getting into those, third and manageable situations and having that success on early downs so that, the offense isn't put in kind of those high pressure situations when you're facing those third and longs?
I was watching Coach Sanford in here. He's just at the end of the day, it's execution. As an offense, everybody has to be on the same page. It's not like defense where one guy can mess up and another guy can make the play. All 11 people on offense need to do what their responsibility is. And then once we learn that, we do it in practice every day. So once we get to Saturdays and we can execute what we need to do, we'll get to 3rd and 2s, or we'll be better on third down efficiency.
I touched on it a little bit, but what was the most difficult or most challenging part of Oregon State's offense, and why was it so hard to move that ball?
Their offense, their defense. I think they played their gaps well. Their linebackers played their gaps well. I think they're covered. Their defensive, their corners and safeties they just played good defense, and they just played good defense. What I'm looking at is they got to the ball. They got pressure on the quarterback, and that's how you win games.
Anything else for Jayle? All right, thank you, sir. All right, any questions for Guy?
How challenging was watching film of this last game after you guys felt like you had turned the corner against Cal, and then see what Oregon State did against you guys? Was it tough to kind of see some of the mistakes you were making earlier in the season?
Yeah, it was a little tough. It was some things that we had to get fixed, and we did. We had walked through all our issues, all the things that that we need to work through. It was definitely tough watching film. We felt like we could have played better, but I guess we put Oregon State behind us and we went on to Arizona State.
You have Arizona State coming up, and Sanford said that you are preparing for 2 quarterbacks. What does that process look like on the defense, preparing for 2 types of play styles?
Arizona State have two good quarterbacks. They can do some things on the ground, and they have quarterbacks who can throw the ball. Two solid guys. We're gonna just prepare for both, and going into this week.
Guy, obviously, last week you guys gave up two 40-plus yard plays. What is it? What goes into stopping those big chunk plays, and just so you guys, and going forward, so you guys don't, aren't letting the opponent get that momentum swing like that on those big plays?
Just taking care of the small things. There's a lot of. I feel like if our defense is sound, and if we are, sound with our alignment, our technique, I think we should be fine.
Guy, what's it like playing for Gerald Chapman, and just has there been an adjustment period with all the changes he's made to the defense for you?
It been great actually. Coach Chapman bring a lot of energy. He obviously bring I guess his experience and a new defense. We've been able to make more plays. We've been able to play more free. So it's really been, I guess, for me and a lot of other guys would say, like, really been good for us to be under Coach Chapman and under his defense.
Hey, Guy, there's a lot of winning tradition and history here at Colorado. What's it going to take to get back to that? I know it can't be done in a day, but how do you start that process?
I would say it would take a group of guys who want to do it right, who want to win, a group of guys who willing to sacrifice for something more, something bigger than themselves. That would take to get this program going in the right direction.
I know you wish you had more big plays, right? More sacks, things like that. But how do you feel like you're playing? I mean, you're starting to make some impact plays the last few weeks, some TFLs. Do you feel like that you're progressing and doing the things you want to do on this defense?
I'm definitely progressing. My body feel good. My body feel great. I'm definitely working on my technique, and there's a lot of things that I could do better, and I will do better. I'm one of the older guys on the defense, so I would like to, carry the defense on my shoulders, make as much plays as I can, to put us, in the best position to get off the field.
And just one last one. You've been in college for a while. Go ahead. Nebraska Community College, then here. You're down to the final few games. So are you kind of savoring it a little bit that this is your last, 5 games here? You're trying to soak it in a little bit?
Yeah, it definitely, definitely soaking it in. I'm definitely putting things in perspective. I've been in college for 6 years, and I have 5 games left. I'm looking to, play my best ball in these next 5 games. We have a lot of tough opponents, and I'm planning on playing my best football. Showing the world, what Guy Thomas can do.
Anything else for Guy? All right. Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.